Hello, this is the voice of Stewart Pearce, and welcome to my series of deep dialogues. These are vital conversations I engage in with global soul stewards from all over the planet, providing us with vital understandings about how we can create a new hierarchy of values to help us evolve into a brave new world. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening.
Namaste, namaste, namaste to our wonderful guest and to all of you people that are tuning in. This is a pre-record. It's not actually live, as you probably realized, but you'll see that Pam is really alive, vital, animated, completely grounded, and absolutely authentic, which is why I love sharing space with her. So without more ado, let me inform you, ladies and gentlemen, all of you that are tuning in, who this wonderful lady is, if by some strange coincidence you don't know who she is. So Pamala, and it's Pamala. Pamela is a psychic intuitive, an aura expert, an author, an inspirational speaker, a radio host. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. This lady is immensely capable. Pam has written 4 successful books: Life Colors, Love Colors, Infinite You, and Make Your Dreams Come True, and has an extensive clientele in her hometown of Los Angeles, well, the suburbs of. Pam has also presented at TED Talks in 2012, at the International Forum of New Science, and at Fortune 500 companies, and has given many seminars for professionals within the fields of psychology, education, health, etc., etc. She was awarded the Holistic Transformational Leader of the Year award by the Global Association of Holistic Psychotherapy and Coaching. Pam is the founder of www.auracolors.com, a site designed to help you create success, joy, fulfillment, all sorts of extraordinary gifts in each area of your life. Each area, not just one area, note. She also developed Love Colors, which is designed to help you find love and friendship, and is now completely part of the auracolors.com, to help you find love and friendship by matching you with the people who are most compatible to the colors of your aura. Welcome, Pam.
Hi, Stewart. Great to see you again. Hey, I have my 5th book out now too. It's my first fiction book. It came through,
Wow.
Stewart, it came through me in 4 days. So obviously something bigger than me wrote it, and it's a metaphysical mystery. It's really
And
fun.
can you tell us what it's called, or is it still under wraps?
No, it's out. It's called The Truth According to John, and that's the title that came through too.
Oh, fantastic.
Really
Fantastic.
fun to read.
Gosh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. Now, you've just hinted at something with great clarity and, with great ease, alacrity. And it's the way that you connect beyond the 3D density into the ethers. And of course, what I'm talking about is your immense ability as an intuitive, as a psychic, as a reader of the sentient energies. Where did this all begin?
In this lifetime? No, kidding. Wow, Stewart, you know what? It's been, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm only 28 years old. So 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago, I actually went to hear a shaman from England here in Santa Barbara, Reverend Michael Bromley. And I went to hear him, and I'd never really heard a psychic before. Went into the room and he walked up and said, "You up here, you know how to do this work." And I went, "What?" No, what? I don't think so. I came to hear you speak. Never done anything like that before in my life. But he had me in front of the group that night and said, "Start telling people what you see about them." So I was shocked, Stewart. I actually saw things about people I didn't even know these people. A woman over to my right, it's the first time in my life I saw the spirit of a little girl standing next to her. So I knew she was pregnant. She didn't even know she was pregnant. So she went to the doctor, found out she was pregnant, and she did have that little girl. So I was getting very specific details about people. And it's funny because that psychic said, you've been asking to go to the next level and this is it. It's like, wait, how did you know that? How did you know I was asking for that? So basically I got thrown in the water. And then about a year later, I met Dr. Barbara Bowers, who could see auras. She was she had synesthesia. So she could see auras. She thought everyone could until she was in her 40s. And I would bring her up to Santa Barbara to start doing workshops with people on their aura colors. And it matched what I had been picking up psychically about people. I had noticed trends or patterns with different types of personality. So when she started describing it, I went, oh, that's a blue. Oh, that's a violet. Oh, that's an indigo. Okay, I get it. So within a year of meeting her, I developed the ability to be able to see and sense auras myself. And once you start, as you know, once you start expanding your consciousness and allowing what's possible to come through, wow, it opens up a whole world of so many different things that makes life way more interesting, more fun, gives you more freedom. It gives you more compassion, more love. So that basically really threw open the doors on my world.
Right, amazing. So, so you're referring to the fact that these, what others call gifts, what we speak of as being intrinsic, inherent abilities.
Yes.
That these abilities were always functioning for you. It's just that you hadn't really named them, you hadn't identified them. And when you moved into those two principal communions with these wonderful people, they were actually able to sort of almost sanction and say, no, you can do this as well. Just have a go. And it flew.
You're exactly right. Stewart, it's interesting that you say that, because after I started getting psychic information, I looked back over my years and went, oh, no wonder. That's why I knew this. That's why that happened. That's why I had that dream of, oh my gosh. So I started putting all the pieces together. And you're exactly right. I honestly believe these are natural abilities that all of us have, all humans, probably animals too. We all have it. It's just some are going to be more natural at it or better at it than others. Just like we can all play the piano, we can play chopsticks, but we're not all going to be Mozart, right? So we've all got these abilities, and that's one of my missions, is to help people expand and open up those abilities to give us a more interesting life and more freedom and more joy. And wow. So I'm glad that that put things together for me, going, oh, wow, no wonder I've been doing that my whole life.
Well, I mean, this is often, with someone who has the abilities that you have, which of course I can empathize with because I have the same abilities, and was deeply synesthetic as a child, could not really function within the 3D world very well. I mean, within the educational context, I just didn't understand what that was all about, could not read until I was began reading at about 12 or 13 through singing. So there are all sorts of reasons for that. But having constant communication with spirit, and being very fortunate with guides coming along. When the student is ready, the masters come. And one of the masters was my grandfather, my mother's father, who was a farmer. And his hands were always in the soil. So he whispered his animals, and he was a man that didn't use machines. I mean, this is going back to the end of the Second World War. But he used horses and oxen to plow. So he was a man of the soil that gave credence to what was taking place that most people couldn't understand. So I'm completely with you. However, more importantly, as a result of all that you've been able to identify for yourself and like a muscle develop, because our spiritual abilities or our multidimensional abilities are housed within the wonder of what it is to be a human being. And you're able to identify for people in the most extraordinary way and help them develop the muscle by a great deal of play, by a great deal of fun, and by a great deal of discernment. And you were sharing with me earlier that you're actually embarking on this amazing course, which is called the Quantum Leap course, which again is another stage for you bringing everybody into an acknowledgement of the quantum field of intelligence that we are all part of and that all is one. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the Quantum Leap course.
It's my big course. It's What I do, Stewart, is I first understand what's possible. I study quantum physics a lot because we have all these natural abilities. And I believe that's really what's emerging now is our ability to do life differently because of what quantum physics is revealing, what the mystics and spiritual teachers have been telling us for eons. So studying all those things, what I do is I go, well, if parallel universes are a real thing, we should be able to use them for more freedom. If everything's energy, we should be able to see auras and energy. If everything's energy, we should be able to heal ourselves. If everything is energy, we should be able to change forms or, affect matter, quote unquote matter. And if there's non-local mind, we should be able to to expand beyond our bodies to be able to connect with other people. So I started when I heard the quantum physics stuff that matched with what these abilities were, I started experimenting with them. And so what I do first is I prove it to myself that they're real. I do it for myself. Excuse me. When I finally realized that we can do all this, that's when I teach it. So what I did was I put together a 2-day workshop and experiential. I taught people, there are a lot of guided meditations to help them open up, taught them how to bend spoons, so mind over matter, taught them how to go into parallel universes, taught them how to go into future lives, past lives, helped them look even at their future 5 years from now. They gave each other readings. They were able to give readings to people they'd never met before. And Stewart, you probably have experienced this too. It's amazing when we're all together, when people are just by themselves, it doesn't seem real because we haven't been taught, that psychic abilities are real or you can talk to the other side or, life goes on. We haven't really been taught that in any meaningful way. But I've noticed that when there's a lot of people in the room and they're together and they see someone else doing it, then other people can do it. I remember the first time I went to study bending spoons with an aerospace engineer, if you can believe that. That's who I got taught by, was an aerospace engineer. And he said the principle of energy, E equals MC squared. And matter and energy are interchangeable. So we're in this room. We're holding a spoon in this hand, a fork in this hand. We're supposed to focus on one and keep saying, okay, bend, bend, bend. And we're supposed to imagine it just falling over and bending, right? Well, that wasn't real to most of us, right? So we're sitting there and it seems like forever. It was probably all of 10 minutes, but it felt longer. We're going, okay, bend, bend, bend. Nothing's happening. Stewart, then all of a sudden this lady in the back of the room let out this scream and we turned around and her spoon was falling over. And as soon as that happened, our spoon started falling over. It's like, oh my gosh, we saw that it was real. So that's why I do the groups too. And so what I did was I condensed those 2 days into a 7-hour course because you pause and then do the exercise. You can do it with your friends. You can bring other people in, or you can do it on your own. I do a lot of guided meditations, a lot of exercises. And I love that you brought up that I make it fun. I want people to have fun because otherwise they get scared. But I've noticed that when other people are doing this, that it's more real, it's more acceptable. It's like a safe environment. So people were actually being psychic with each other and doing remote viewing and bending spoons. So it was fun. Is my email coming up on the screen? Is that what's happening?
No.
Okay, good.
There are pings taking place, which I guess
I got to shut that off. I don't know why that's happening. I apologize, Stewart. Well, we're being friendly, right?
Not to worry. It shows another aspect of what you're describing, which is within the quantum field, there is all connectivity. So as you speak, people are trying to connect with you to once again draw you forth into a quantum leap experience.
There you go. Oh my gosh, now I lost you. Where are you? I can't see you. Well, this is fun. Stewart, you went invisible on me. Are you there?
You hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear you? Yeah, I just can't find you. That's very bizarre. That's never happened before. Did you go invisible on me? Did you go into another parallel universe and now I can't find you? There you are. You went to a parallel universe on my computer.
So that was interesting, okay? Because what we're doing, although the intention was not for you to lose me, what we were doing is actually moving into a glitch within the matrix.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what you do. You dance between the glitches. And within the glitches, you're able to bring in immense magic through, from the quantum field. And as a result of that, the spoon bending takes place. And I completely cohere. I remember, it was many, many years ago, let's say 45 years ago, of engaging in a psychic phenomenon workshop here with a man who produced oil from his palms, rather like Sai Baba could produce vibhuti, how some of the great gurus in the East still do. And nobody could do it. Everybody was going, bend, bend, bend. And then suddenly he said, why don't you just watch this? And we watched him just do it. And the spoon went like this. And we noticed that all of our spoons had gone. So I concur with you. But why? Okay, so this is wonderful, and it's playful, and it's super, super rich in the experience as we begin to really understand that these flights of fancy, or these immense abilities of being able to distort the space-time continuum to bring about great magic and great miracles, that we know about this, but others that are drawn to us are yearning for the experience, but also feel that they're not part of it. So I'd love to go back into talking about the richness and the fertile soil that you're creating for this level of multidimensional activity, and moving truly into the telekinetic and the psychic aspects of our beings. But what are the common states that you've experienced that prevent people from recognizing these very natural abilities?
Well, of course, the first state is fear, fear and uncertainty. And then the other is lack of belief. I mean, that it's possible. We haven't been raised that way. But you know what, Stewart? I honestly believe that's why we were drawn to, the fairy godmothers in Disney things, right? The magic of what was going on, and why people are so drawn to superheroes now, or Harry Potter. There's something in us that knows and that craves, that desires to be able to have those abilities, to be able to do all those things. So again, I think that we're in a time in our history where quantum physics is supporting it, so that it becomes more real. So people that are more logical or scientific can at least look at, wow, maybe. And those of us that have got the heart, the soul, the belief, the feeling that there's something more to life. Because I don't know about you, but the ordinary stuff out there has gotten so boring to me. Just watching TV or the news or whatever, it's so boring. It's so passé. I feel like we're evolving into something greater. So that's why I create these things, to help people and to see they're not crazy. A lot of people, as you know, have either seen auras when they were children and told not to do that, or had this intuitive sense or this psychic ability and they were told not to, out of fear and out of lack of education, right? It's like, that's not possible. You can't do that. I mean, we were told, you can't fly. I don't know. We're starting to question they don't even know what gravity is. That's what's so bizarre. Einstein didn't even know what gravity was. He theorized about it. Now they're starting to say they think Einstein was wrong. We don't even know what gravity is. So if we don't even know what it is, and we're operating out of that right now, maybe someday our concept of gravity is going to change. And I know a lot of the meditators, they practice flying. It looks like hopping, but there's something in us, Stewart. Don't you agree that knows there's something more to who we are?
Oh, of course, yes. And actually, going back to what you were saying about the innate sharings, the intimate sharings, we know that we arise out of a society where magic has not always been endorsed unless it was sleight of hand. But actually, we've all experienced families coming together on certain occasions, like the holy days and the high days, where we may be all sitting around at the end of the day. The TV has been switched off because everybody's bored with the TV, because we actually watch so many films, and we're drinking hot chocolate or cocoa or coffee or whatever. And then suddenly the fire starts to splutter, if there is a fire, a log fire or whatever. And people start telling stories. And suddenly all of those angel bumps start occurring over, through the back of one's neck, and people start indulging in, and even the greatest cynic. In other words, we're hardwired for this level of connection. We're hardwired for connection in terms of our basic relationship processes. We're hardwired for this level of connection with the the otherworldliness of what is necessary at
Mhm.
this time. We're hardwired, as you were saying, for what's happening at the moment, but I believe that this year is really seeing the death of the king archetype and
Mm,
the arousal of the superhero archetype.
mm,
That the sovereign archetype is no longer necessary. We've all acquired a sense of our own personal sovereignty, our
mm.
spiritual sovereignty, and now we're looking into the world of the superpowers. We're moving into superheroes, where, of course, Marvel has already preceded this. Harry Potter was the greatest box office success in cinematographic history. So
Yeah.
there's a reason for all of this. We're yearning for the magic.
Yeah. And look at how many people are in fear about it, though. I mean, my gosh, there were people that were banning the Harry Potter books because they felt they were sorcery and evil and whatever. So my desire is to show people there's nothing to be afraid of. There's no evil force that's going to take them over, or they're going to access some demonic. I've never seen that in my life, right? Of course, I don't believe in it, so I don't experience it. But what holds people back is fear that it's wrong, or they can't do it, or they won't be enough, or something bad's going to happen. And then the other one is feeling like they can't. It's not possible. It's not realistic. It's not. It's a trick. It's sleight of hand. It's a con. It's like so many people. It's like, oh, what you do is conning people. It's like, no, it's really real. It's real. My goal is to free people up and to help them not be afraid of it. So that's why I want it to be fun and easy, and see that it's normal behavior, not something weird. Or yes, I realize I live in California, but it's not woo-woo. I mean, that's why I study the science of it, the quantum physics. And you know what? Just like you, I've gone to a lot of those. I've spoken at science and consciousness conferences. So there's physicists there and there's scientists there. And to be able to talk to them, and some of the things that they've discovered, Stewart, would blow people away. And they said that from the time that they understand something scientifically and it gets into the educational field, it takes a minimum of 24 years. 24 years. And some of the stuff I heard these physicists saying is just like, wow. But of course, it's all energy, it's all frequency. So the new stuff that's emerging is all based on quantum physics. Our cell phones, the satellites, space, it's all quantum physics. So you understand, I have a very grounded approach to what we're doing. It's very real. It's very safe. It's not hard. It really isn't hard. Once you start doing this, it's another state of consciousness. I like that you asked that earlier. Different states. I mean, people go from daydreaming to sleeping to waking. Those are just and imagining things. Those are just different states of consciousness. Well, being able to go into the state of consciousness where you expand your awareness and you can do remote viewing or psychic abilities or expanded intuition. It's just another state of consciousness. People aren't afraid of daydreaming. They're not afraid. Well, most people aren't afraid of going to sleep. I guess there's some. People aren't afraid of being awake. It's like this is just another state of consciousness that people haven't practiced because they've been told they can't, or it's bad.
Absolutely. And the fact that our creative magic has been suppressed by all of the mechanisms within the educational and social brainwashing processes that we've been through. So I hear you speak a lot about play, and I hear you speak a lot about imagination. And, I'm reminded of great teaching that I've received from a metaphysical perspective over the years. Do you believe that imagination is really a gateway into the spirit world?
Yeah, Einstein even said imagination is more important than knowledge, because what we think we know limits us, right? So imagination, going back to Einstein, and again, most of the things that are coming out now are going beyond Einstein. I mean, he freaked out over quantum physics. He didn't like the concept of entanglement, which he called spooky action at a distance. So he stopped it at a certain point. But he even said imagination was more important. And then who is she? Oh yeah. Okay, I can see her face, Jane, whatever. Anyway, she said she had a meeting with Einstein and he was teaching a class when she was
Jane Houston.
Yes, Jean Houston. Thank you. I was like, it's not Jane, it's Jean Houston. I adore her. She said that he came to her class when she was young, and someone said, how do we get as smart as you? And he said, read fairy tales. Well, how do we get smarter than you? Read more fairy tales. Because it opens up the possibilities. That's how we create everything, Stewart. Everything happens in the imagination first, and then somebody gets this idea and then they create it. So I believe imagination is key. Now, I will tell you, when I start teaching people how to be intuitive psychic, whatever word you want to put to it, the word psychic scares so many people because it's so old connotation, but expanded awareness, the place in the consciousness, even the brain, if we're going to go physical, is right next to the place where the imagination is. So a lot of people, when they start getting psychic hits, they think they're just imagining it. It's like, well, of course that's how it feels, right? But then they find out they're right. So that's why I like doing these courses, because then people get validation when they're working with people, right? Yeah. So I think imagination it frees us up. Mm. It's the place where there's all possibilities. Mm. Right? Because knowledge limits us. We think what we know is fact and that's it. And there's no place to go past that. We never would have grown. We never would have created space travel or sliding doors or cell phones or, going beyond horse and buggy if somebody didn't have imagination.
Mm. And would you agree that imagination leads us into the substance of the way it feels?
Yes.
And so our imagination expands as we feel, because, my firm belief is that feeling is the language of the soul. It's the way that we move into metaphor. It's the way that we really do develop a feeling linguistic, which, of course, there's a famous German philosopher, Austrian philosopher, Wittgenstein, who said, the limits of my language are the limits of my world. So if we're expanding our language by the experiential, I'm not just talking about word or vocabulary, I'm talking about the expansion of our playful imaginative processes, our feeling capacities, then automatically we move into a warm embrace of something which is utterly supernal and wondrous and full of awe.
Yeah.
What's wonderful is that when you describe the processes that you move through, there is no one in their right mind that could ever consider you to be woo-woo. No. And I thought it was interesting. I know that David Hamilton has actually written a book called, he's this wonderful scientist who comes into our midst in the mind, body, and spirit community and shares with us the chemical reasoning, so to speak, of how we can actually have psychic abilities. So he's written a book about woo-woo. It seems to me that woo-woo, in my understanding, is that when we engage in pure fantasy, and there's nothing fantastical about Pam. She's immensely creative, wonderfully imaginative, and you have this wonderful way of being able to make the complex so simple. But it's because you're so earthed. And I wonder if we could actually speak to this, because we know that many people within our communities, within the communion of light that is growing on planet Earth, that we're waking to the possibility of using our psychic, our telepathic, our telekinetic, or if you like, those downloads that we receive as quantum beings. And yet some people use them as techniques to color and fantasize the ego. Mm. And then it ceases to be real and starts to become woo-woo.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think we're all different, Stewart. There's a mass amount of, different colors in the coloring book, right? Or the coloring box of colors. We're all here. My understanding is we're all here having experiences for all that is, for the universe, for God, whatever source, whatever word you want to put to it. I believe we're all expressions of source, so that source can have experiences and feel. And so I do everything in my power. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm getting better to not judge what anyone else is doing or experiencing, because it's all adding to the expansion of or all that is, or source. So it's okay. It's not my thing. And who I reach are the people that resonate with what I teach. Who you reach is the people that resonate with what you teach. We're all connected. We're all doing the same thing, just different ways of doing it. But to your point of like the emotion, the feeling and the emotions are the language of the soul. That's all energy too, right? Emotions are energy in motion. And I feel like that's how we change our frequency, and that's how we manifest the law of attraction. All of that is coming up in the consciousness now. Haven't you seen that? How much it's in the consciousness now? More and more. I'm watching people on TV, newscasters, saying that they put something out into the universe, to manifest it. And I went, these are newscasters talking this way. What's happening? So I've seen a big shift in consciousness. So there's places for woo-woo people, because there are people, gentle souls, that are drawn to that, and it makes sense to them and they resonate with it. I'm not fully intellect. I understand quantum physics. I've been able to have one-on-one conversations with some very infamous or famous quantum physicists. One of them in England, by the way. I got to be with him for hours and hours, and his whole thing is about parallel universes. And I held my own with him for hours because I could speak the science language. Matter of fact, Stewart, I asked him questions he couldn't answer. It's like, wow. Matter of fact, his answer was, he doesn't believe, well, I don't want to get into parallel universes, but I asked him a question and he said, well, I choose not to believe that because then I'd have to change a whole lot of other things that I believe in. It's like, wow. So, but it's really starting to permeate the mass consciousness a lot, just with like we said, the movies, the movies and the literature and the TV shows, and it's starting to go into the mass consciousness.
Yeah. And I just want to put in a proviso here that I hasten to add that what I asked, or what I stated and then asked a question about, that I did not intend criticism or judgment at all.
Right.
I was just looking into the skills that you and I are teaching, where we become really discerning about how we can shape and further expand and utilize our extraordinary magical abilities. And there is I believe, a grave difference between imagination and just getting caught up in what the ego wants to do. But I'm just, I'm not judging anybody at all. Maybe the value of woo-woo, because the woo-woo that we interpret in Europe is something that is actually ungrounded.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it seems intuitively to have a quality of unreality about it.
Yeah.
And it's much more to do with the trappings of the ego. Okay, look, if you can acquire all these crystals, you're going to be fine, rather than, well, do you have a relationship with your crystals? And how, these wonderful beings that they are, these minerals that we have, how are they actually allowing you to feel the co-creative element of the way you interconnect with Mother Nature? And that's what I try and steer everybody into the reverence and into the absolute devoted aspects of our pathway, where love is kindled, and where love is kindled, there is more joy. Where joy is kindled, there is more play. Where play is kindled, our senses just go, and that's when we begin to recognize, oh my goodness, I've been doing this all my life. It's just that teacher said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And actually, we weren't doing anything. We were just being, and being in connection with a spirit guardian, an angel, a dear departed one, or maybe even one of the great guardians of the universe. So like you, I know that we didn't necessarily mention it in this conversation, but we were saying during our pre-show chat that the way that you instill this wonderful romp through the multiverse is to allow people to understand that if we're here with pure intention, we're always surrounded by the guardians of light. And it's the guardians of light that will lead us forth into the expansion of what we're determining as being transparency or honesty or integration.
Yep. It's just an amazing time. I have to share something just happened. Talk about synchronicity, or bringing technology, or the 3D world into whatever we're doing right now. Tesla just shot off 15 more satellites, and they just went off, and my whole place was going pop, 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 because we're real close to where he shoots those off from. So I'm like, well, here we are shooting out into space now with more of his, I forget what those strings of satellites are called. But it's a whole pearl. Anyway, that was happening while you were talking. It's like, well, that's cool. Oh my gosh, we're in interesting times, aren't we, Stewart?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about we've got the adventure, we've got the play, and this wonderful course that you're opening up, the Quantum Leap course. You know, I'm reminded of our dear late lamented friend, you know, the one, oh gosh, her name is gone.
Well, you did it
created,
too.
who created Dolores Cannon,
Oh,
who
yeah.
created, you know, who created quantum therapy, which was taught, is still being taught around the world, particularly by Julia, her dear daughter, and how, as a psychotherapist, or rather as a hypnotherapist, although she started in psychotherapy, she moved into hypnotherapy or regression. She started speaking to alien beings that gave her a tremendous amount of information. And so she started writing a fleet of books called The Convoluted Universe. So the spirit of endeavor, the spirit of this pioneering instinct of moving us into the vastness of what our consciousness is all about is around in spades, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But right at the very core of it, I want to ask you about your pioneering zeal, which, I mean, that's a slightly grandiloquent way of putting it, because you just keep playing and you keep expanding. And it seems to me that you keep asking the question, why? And then the information comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
But as a pioneer, what is one of the key things that you would love to bring into people's consciousness over the next 5-10 years?
Wow, that's a big question, Stewart. I think if I were to encapsulate the whole thing, it would be to help us all understand that we're infinite, multidimensional beings. We're not these little biological little machines that are born, they age, they get sick, they die. That's not who we are. So if I could get any one message across to people, it's that we are infinite in time and space, multidimensional, and I think we are curious, amazing, powerful, but curious and playful beings. And I also believe that the people that volunteered to come to this planet at this time were extra brave, extra courageous, extra like, oh yeah, I want to know, I want to be here during this time. I want to see what's going on. So it's just so that we're not so consumed that, you know, we're worrying about putting gas in the car or paying the bills. And I understand that's a real thing, but when people really start getting that I like the word you use a lot, that we're way more magical than we've been taught. And that's real. And it's not woo-woo and it's not fantasy. It's real. I would love to get that across to all of us. And me too, Stewart. I mean, I think, and I broke my foot. I think one of the reasons I have a broken foot, which I've never broken anything in my life, ever, right? One, I had compassion for people that were having trouble walking. So it's like, oh, good, I just experienced that myself now. Thank you for focusing on that. But also on a deeper subconscious level, I think I've got one foot in the new world, where it's all this energy and consciousness and expanded awareness and more magic, and one foot stuck in the old world, because, well, I'll tell you this, I know people are calling it the 3D world, whatever you want to call it. I've got a foot still stuck in there. So is it always easy for me? No. Do I need to keep a sense of humor about it? Yes, because I think when we get to in the gravity of things, feel everything so grave and serious, then we don't shift, right? So my way of lightening up for enlightenment is to lighten up about it, be more playful, be more curious, be happier. But I have one foot in both worlds, both worlds of states of being, states of consciousness. So it's like the foot that I broke, it's like, daggone, that is so, yeah, and I can't walk, I can't move forward with it. So it's like, oh man, is that symbolic or what? So I know I'm all over the place. So I probably didn't answer what you asked, but
no, you're not. We're following. I mean, I'm following. I hope that everybody who's listening in, I'm sure that they are. So let's just expand on the whole notion of how we can manage this distortion of the space-time continuum that's taking place, which you're registering, because I completely relate to what you're talking about. With one foot in the fifth dimension and one foot in 3D. How can we manage? How do you manage your way through so that you don't receive the density consciousness of 3D that stops you from play?
The biggest answer I can say to that is practice. I just have to keep bringing myself back to practicing. It's like, no, this really is where I want to go. This is what I believe. This is what I know to be true. Like learning how to walk, right? We probably didn't learn how to start walking the first time we tried, right? If somebody did, I want to hear about that. Anyway, so we walk, then we fall down. Then we start to walk, then we fall down. I just have to remind myself and not be hard on myself, Stewart. I think that's the biggest trap, because I'm really good at doing that. I'm really good at being hard on myself. It's like, how did I end up with this? I know better than this. I know I create my own reality. So I tell people there's only 2 reasons that we suffer, or 2 reasons why we go backwards or suffer. One is because we've forgotten who we really are, right? That we're these amazing, magical, vast, and just watch, quantum physics is going to be emerging so much to show people that that's real. And I think our technology is helping us do that, teaching us how to be telepathic even, or, they've already got the technology to move things with our minds. So, run our computers with our minds. So we're getting there. So we either have forgotten who we are, or we're doing it for the experience. Okay. So, I broke my foot. I know what that feels like now. I don't want to do it again. I'm over it. I have compassion for people now, but I had the experience. So then I don't judge myself for like, how did that happen? What's wrong with you? So when I look at it that way, it helps lift me into more of that alive, optimistic, playful, oh yeah, we're eternal beings. So what else are we going to do? We're going to play. We're going to experiment with lots of different things. I did a workshop last week and people went, you mean you're telling me that people choose their lives and they choose their experiences? And I went, that's what I'm telling you. And they went, why would somebody choose to do that and suffer for it? And I go, well, I don't know why they chose it, but most people, it's either they forgot who they are or they wanted to experience it. They wanted to see what it felt like. We're eternal beings. What else are you going to do? You're going to sit in the clouds and play a harp for eternity? No, right? So my answer is I have to keep remembering, bringing myself back, not being hard on myself, getting a sense of humor every so often, playing with it, reminding, do I always stay there? No. So I want people to know we're in the birthing situation, and giving birth can sometimes be painful. Okay. We get birth pangs. So I keep reminding myself of that, and it helps. It helps. Connecting with nature helps. Going and walking on the beach. I live in Santa Barbara, so walking on the beach helps me a lot. Sense of humor. I haven't gotten to the point where I can just do nothing because there's too much to do right now that I've chosen. So I haven't gotten that one down yet, Stewart, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to grace and ease. I honestly believe that's where our souls want us to go, is grace and ease.
Yeah. And if for some reason, because we get too engaged in the doing of the world,
Yeah.
and something happens where there's an altercation with establishment, because these social organizing principles that we've created, or our forebears created, and we've, for all intents and purposes, have actually allowed ourselves to be part of their creation, that they all need to shift because they're no longer serving us.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we know that there are certain contracting energies about the whole substance of what's happening in central government, what's happening in the banking system, That as we approach those organisms and begin to change them, that it seems to me that we just need to be vigilant of what we most believe in as we attach ourselves to the energies, so that we can then detach, we can then withdraw. I mean, I'm thinking of something really humble. Like this afternoon, I had a quest. Because of going to Los Angeles next week, I needed a new pair of shoes. So I went off and bought a new pair of shoes. But then I realized that the shoes had rubber soles. And when I'm standing in front of very large groups of people, I like to wear leather. So there's a full conduction of energy going all the way through my body, and rubber stops that. So I went back to the store. And as I approached the store, I thought, is this going to be easy, or is this going to be difficult? So thought creates reality.
Yeah.
And what I did was to open up my cell phone and open the app for the 12 Angels of Atlantis that came to me in '87 and that I've been working with ever since. And I just tapped the app, and automatically the card empathy came up. Raphael, the holy healer, and empathy. And I thought, "Ah, that's the key." So I walked into the store smiling and being intensely empathetic. And, it was a problem initially because they didn't believe that even though the guy who served me was the guy who served me the other day, they didn't believe that my want was of any note or any consideration. So they were going to try and refuse it. And then I just applied the empathy, and automatically the whole energy shifted. I mean, it's so innocent and earthy and simple. But if we can just remember to bring in divine aid, we can use it as a glorious clarion call, like the angels trumpeting, or a light comes in that shines the way. All of these teaching that the great mystics have given us, but in these humble situations, so we don't lose our center, we don't lose our note, we don't lose our cool, we stay.
Yeah. And you brought up a really good point too, Stewart, about, wait, now I'm losing it because I'm listening to what you're saying and I forgot what you said before. Oh, the story. What we focus on increases, right? So one of the most challenging things for any of us to do is to let go of the story, right? We get very attached to the story, and people and we do the stories to get the feeling out of it, the emotions out of it, the whatever it is out of it, right? So people can get very addicted to their stories. I get it. If you want to shift something, again, what you focus on increases. So there are a lot of people on the planet, me included, that we can get very invested in the story, even about, oh my gosh, the earth, and look what they're doing to it, and the poor animals, and we got to change this. And I go, wow, it's a story. So we're having to see it as bad. So we've got something to fight against. It's like, what if we just let go of that story and envisioned and put our energy into a beautiful, healthy, green, clean, lush earth? What if we put our energy there? I honestly believe that's how we're going to manifest that instead. As somebody said a long time ago, the people that hate war are not the ones that are going to end war. It's the people who love peace, and put their attention on peace, that are going to create peace here. So where we put our energy, just what you said, that's how we manifest our reality. So that's tricky because you got a lot of people on the planet that are like, you're hiding your head in the sand. You're not facing, these bad guys that we got to deal with. It's like, no, it's just a different experience. I don't want to add to the conflict. I don't want to add to the them against us energy. I choose to manifest just what you just did with the shoes. You went to a higher frequency, to empathy, you went to kindness, you went to ease, and look at the result. Because you would have gone into the battle, into the story, and it would have been a whole different outcome.
And so we're moving, something that keeps coming up in my consciousness and in my conversation, that we're really being able to identify that many of us are caught in the neuroses of separation. Something is wrong, rather than in the glory of diversity, this feature of duality, so that we can move not into the incandescence of the story, but we can actually see from a quantum point of view what the story is revealing to us. That what is a broken foot revealed to Pam, etc., etc. So we begin to see that it's no longer necessary for us to be in these very parochial thought forms or ways of being, that what we're being asked to do is to see that we're beings of quanta, we're beings of the quantum field. And that's really the inspiration that you're bringing through in the cohesiveness of what you're doing in the Quantum Leap course, isn't it? Allowing people to really feel how they can expand their auric field to see themselves as a super being.
And I like what somebody said a long time ago in alignment with that. It's not necessary to fight against something else. You just create something new that's a better version, and then that takes place and the old just falls away. So what I'm teaching in these courses is a new way of looking at life, a new way of doing things, an easier, more fun way of doing things too. And then the old stuff, I don't struggle as much anymore because I'm not interested anymore. So it just kind of falls away. I don't want to put my energy there. So thank you for bringing up the course. It's not that it's all giggly, funny, we're making fun of everything. It's just an enjoyable way to start learning this new thing, this new perception on who we are and how reality works. We've been given an old version of reality, Newtonian physics, mechanistic, as you said, separate from everything, little biological machines that are separate from one another. And now we're being given a new story that basically is, it is all one and we're all connected. And we're getting a version of that just with the internet, with our cell phone. I mean, we're all connected. Even if it looks like it's through technology, it's still energy. It's just energy. So I feel like we're headed that way anyway.
Oh, absolutely, unquestionably, and if anybody wants literal mechanistic proof of what we're talking about, in the last season of Male Global Soul Stewards, there was a wonderful gentleman who came on, Dawson Church, and he gave the most beautiful synthesis of all the remarkable things that we've achieved over the last 4 or 5 years, that literally gives a light to the possibility of the fact that we're moving through into the quantum field experience rather than being limited to the tragedies that seemingly are taking place.
Yeah.
And, bearing in mind that our deep dialogue is actually called Live Your Dreams Come True, you're really talking about the essence and the fabric of what it is to live your dreams come true. Pam, what is truth for you?
What is truth for me is that I think the only thing they said we can know for sure is I am. Truth for me is that we're these remarkable, expansive, infinite souls, beings having experiences for the experience, and we're shifting and we're expanding and we're growing, and we're going to let it be easier. And right now we're in that transition phase where it's a little sticky. It's a little hard to move through it because it's denser than we want it to be. But I think the biggest truth for me is that we're really infinite, multidimensional, expansive, eternal beings having experiences. And once I keep that perspective, everything else is like, okay, turn the page. Okay, next story. Okay, let's go. Really quick too, Stewart, I want people to know that if they do get my Quantum Leap course, all my courses are money back guarantee. So if they start doing it, they don't like it, they just get all their money back. I'm choosing to expand the consciousness here by contributing that way.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And is a hallmark of sacred commerce. That's also bringing in the endeavor of the beauty, the devotion, the veneration, the reverence of the way that you approach your work. That's really, really beautiful.
Thank you, Stewart. I really appreciate all the compliments you give me and how you know that I'm authentic and real, because that's who I am. That's who I choose to be. And I think it's funny, even the whole commerce money thing is changing. I mean, there's no substance behind the paper money that we've got, right? There's no gold behind it. And now they're mining things out of the internet, out of nothing. And that's going to be it's like, are people getting it that we're making this all up anyway? It's so cute, so obvious. It just makes it easier to, because, honestly, don't you think we've made money a god? And we've given it a whole lot of power, way more power than ourselves. Yeah. And it's not even a nice God. It's a mean God. It withholds from us. So it's like,
I'd say we were warned about this in the Old Testament.
Were we? That's funny.
We won't go there because that was all about, will I disparage God? And God is an all-fearful being. No. God is love. But it's there already as an instrument, because we know that we're no longer using paper money.
Yeah.
We're actually using our cards all the time for every single thing. I actually went into a store yesterday to buy a bottle of water. I mean, like a 50 ml bottle of water, and I handed her cash, which I realized that I actually haven't done for the 2 years of what I call the global pause.
Yeah.
What I'm referring to, we all know that. And she said, no, we don't accept money. And so again, my card came out. So immediately we're moving into the digitalization of our currency systems.
Yeah.
And we're beginning, therefore, to see that money is part of the magic and the imaginative processes that we're all developing, because it simply provides mobility.
Yeah, we're playing Monopoly, and half the time I'm not even using my card anymore. It's just bank transfer to bank transfer. So all I'm seeing is numbers going from here over to here. So I didn't touch anything. So it's like, we're playing Monopoly. We're playing games.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Pam, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time together, and it's such a romp. It's fantastic being with you. It's very easy to give these adoring comments when they're true and when one loves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Deep Dialogue platform is one of absolute love that was born out of the time when we all moved into the global lockdown. And I started having conversations with people, some whom I knew that I hadn't spoken to for a long time, all via Zoom, all around the planet, and some new people. And I asked everybody to really note, do you see that there's a new vibrational field that we're part of? Because the quality of conversation was causative, was deep, but not in terms of what you were saying earlier, moving into the deadness of solemnity, for solemnity itself, but moving into true reverence about the nature of the way that in the silence, we were all listening to Divine Mother speak to us.
Yeah.
And what I'd love us to do to finalize, if you could, is that in Live Your Dreams Come True, that I know you have you've spoken of many things, but I know you have 3 particular skills that always bring you back to the essence of the I am that you are, that we all are, but the I am presence of Pam. What would those 3 things be?
Wow, the first one, which is so challenging in this day and age, but I know it to be the truth, and the spiritual teachers have been saying this forever, is be still. Be still and know. Be still. Being in the quiet. Wow, I crave it. I relish it. And I know it brings me back into the connection, back into knowingness, and back into the present moment. So be still and know, right? Be still and know I am, right? So that's the first one. The second one is, honestly, is just remembering for me what this all is and who we really are. Just remembering and reminding myself of that, even though it can be very convincing out there in the story, in the matrix, as you call it. And then the third one, honestly, is to just enjoy it. I tell people, even if you're in just really painful or emotional or lost, whatever, get the juice out of it. If you're here as a soul having experiences, and part of that is to really have emotions and feelings, get the juice out of it until you're onto something else. So I think one of the biggest things to help me is to just enjoy where you are, just enjoy this process, because I have this habit of come on, I got to get through this so I can get what's next. Come on, I got to get this done so that I can get, do what's next. And it's wow, I missed a whole lot of my life by doing that. And I know a lot of other people do that.
Yeah.
So those are probably the 3 things.
Brilliant, brilliant. So did you get that, everybody? Because you've just been listening to one of the great global soul stewards of our time. And Pam, I want to thank you from the core of my being for coming and exchanging with such generosity and such fun and such ease and wisdom. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And to everybody else, you'll be able to relish all of Pam's work. So I think Ryan, my tech manager, is about to put Pam's website up on the screen. No, there it is. Okay, everybody. auracolors.com. auracolors.com. And for those of you who are unfamiliar to me and the platform that I'm offering, please do go to the angelsofatlantis.com. Don't go to stewartpearce.com. Otherwise, you'll be disappointed, because it suddenly gets really corporate, because I serve the corporate community with the experiences that I've had over the last many years. But the angelsofatlantis.com has a lot of really interesting stuff. So Pam, thank you so much. And namaste to everybody. Please, Pam, stay where you are. And thank you, Ryan.